Once upon a time, many, many years ago, a man tamed a horse and invented a wheel. A man was very happy, because now he could travel to mysterious lands, meet new people and trade. Horses and wheels had helped a man to see how wonderful our world is and brought us humans together. Now, when Her Royal Majesty Queen Victoria was ruling half of the world, in a small German town of Pforzheim, there was a young woman who fell in love with machine lover and tinkerer Carl Benz, who was 5 years her senior and penniless, but had a head full of crazy ideas. And who could talk better about technology than about feelings? That woman was me. My name is Bertha Benz, and this is my story. My parents were wealthy and they invested heavily in their children's educations. I attended a boarding school in Pforzheim for 10 years and was known for my ambition and fascination with technological innovation, but could not study, as women were not allowed to attend university at the time. So it didn't take me long to accept Carl's proposal, as I almost immediately fell in love with his inventor's mind, with the ideas on the verge of fantasy.
I love you.
I want you to keep telling me that as long as we're together.
That'll be forever.
On the 20th of July 1872, we were married. The huge part of my dowry did not save Carl's falling iron business, but thanks to my premarital financial support, Carl was able to move to a new manufacturing venture with 2 other companions, called Benz and Cy. There he was able to use his experience with bicycles. One could think, we moved with our life peacefully from that point on. Well, that could have happened, had it not been for my husband's bad dream. Ben believed that with the cutting-edge bicycle technology he would be able to create a horseless carriage. I thought he had gone out of his mind when he first shared his ideas with me. But I couldn't stop thinking about that. In the end, wasn't it the man, full of crazy ideas, I fell in love with? And wasn't a woman that muse, who could make those ideas come true? So I decided firmly that, whatever difficulty came on our way, Benz could always rely on his wife's helping shoulder. We got down to work. Based on his experience with, and fondness for bicycles, he used similar technology when he created an automobile. It featured wire wheels, unlike carriage's wooden ones, with a 4-stroke engine of his own design between the rear wheels, which was the key part of the project. We faced a lot of challenges on this journey. First of all, we had to take care of our fast-growing family, and many times we were broke. At one point, when I was pregnant with our 3rd child, the bailiff had our workshop emptied, because we could no longer pay our debts. But despite all the obstacles, we continued, and on New Year's Eve 1879, we were able to get a 2-stroke engine to work for the first time. Eventually, in December 1885, we finished work on the first horseless carriage, 13 years into our marriage. The 1885 version was difficult to control, which led to a collision with a wall during a public demonstration. The first successful tests on public roads were carried out in the early summer of 1886. Benz first publicly drove the car on the 3rd of July 1886 in Mannheim at a top speed of 16 km per hour. Unfortunately, the public was not very excited about the idea of buying the car, perhaps due to the previous unsuccessful test drive. My husband was a poor marketer and, additionally, faced competition by Gottlieb Daimler, who invented the high-speed petroleum-fueled engine. All of that made Ben depressed and losing faith in the success of his invention. No words of comfort or encouragement could uplift his spirit. And I was very upset to see that he was about to give up on his creation, which we had invested in all we had. But Bertha Benz was not going to give up so easily. One sleepless night I came up with a plan. I wrote my husband a letter while he was still sleeping. Then I woke up my 2 boys, Richard and Eugen, who were 13 and 15 years old respectively, and quietly left home. Bertha Benz was going to prove to the whole world that her husband was a genius and his construction had a future. So we started our car and left Mannheim, where we lived, at dawn without telling my husband and without permission of the authorities. Before our historic trip, motorized drives were merely very short trials, returning to the point of origin, made with assistance of mechanics. And our tour covered a one-way distance of about 106 kilometers, following wagon tracks, as road maps were not existent at that time. We solved numerous technical problems along the way. With no fuel tank and only a 4.5-liter supply of petrol in the carburetor, I had to find ligroin, the petroleum solvent needed for the car to run. The solvent was only available at apothecary shops, so we stopped in Wiesloch at the city pharmacy to purchase the fuel. And so this is how the chemist in Wiesloch became the first fuel station in the world. I cleaned a blocked fuel line with my hat pin and used my garter as insulation material. When the wooden brakes began to fail, I visited a cobbler to install leather, making the world's first pair of brake linings. An evaporative cooling system was employed to cool the engine, making water supply a big worry along the trip. We added water to our supply every time we stopped. Additionally, the car's 2 gears were not enough to surmount uphill inclines, and Eugen and Richard often had to push the vehicle up steep roads, sometimes with the help of local boys. Despite all the challenges, we reached my mother's home in Pforzheim somewhat after dusk, notifying my husband of our successful journey by telegram. We drove back to Mannheim several days later. The trip received a great deal of publicity, as I had sought, and was a key event in the technical development of the automobile. I reported everything that had happened along the way and made important suggestions, such as the introduction of an additional gear for climbing hills and brake linings to improve brake power. After my historic test drive, Benz and Cie became the world's largest automobile company. In 1906, our family moved to Leidenburg, where Carl and our sons, Eugen and Richard, started another solely family-held automobile business named Benz Sons, which remained family-owned. Many years ago, a man tamed a horse and invented a wheel, for a man wanted to see the world. And many years later, one man, full of crazy ideas in his head, changed the world forever and set a horse free.